Hello, my name is Steve Anderson, and I'm here a day before election. And if you're like me, you're exhausted. So I have created something that will help you get through this week. Now, one caveat. If you are set in your core to hate the other side, this is not for you. If you're frustrated, driven nuts by the other side, stick around. This might help a little bit. All right. So, I'm a big proponent of journaling, and guided journaling, I think, is even better because it gives you some specific questions and it will keep you from ruminating, which is, we've got enough of that going on. So, let's just get right to it. Surviving the 2024 election week because it's not going to be easy. If we're lucky, it ends Tuesday night, but it might not. So, this could be a while. And I have a couple questions. I'm just going to walk you through them. And at the end of this, there'll be a link where you can get this for free. No anything besides just let's try to keep a little bit of sanity as we go forward. So the first question that I have are list 10 things that won't change no matter who wins. Right? And the thing is, my background is both in education and some coaching, neuroscience for coaches, right? And when we're being bombarded with how terrible everything is, it's really easy to focus on how terrible everything it is. So this question will help you to pull back and say, hey, no matter if Trump is president, if Harris is president, right? I'm still a dad, right? I'm still a husband. I'm still, you name it. So what are the 10 most important things that aren't going to change in your life, no matter who's president? And go ahead and you fill that one out to help you realize that this election, as much as it's being painted as everything, which, come on, like the last four have been the end of America. So we've faced the end of America how many times in the last 2 decades? But what matters most? And then when it comes to your fear, feelings are real, right? So it's good to get them out. I want you to put down the biggest one in here. And notice I don't give you a lot of space because there's expressing it, naming it, and there's dwelling on it. And let's avoid from that, right? But what is that biggest fear that you have? I'm thinking about, and typically, right, that fear is around who do you think is going to get hurt? So once you've gotten to what the fear is, some good news. Our government is designed to be slow and it's just a mess. And it takes a long time for things to move through. Now, some of you who are political are saying, yes, Steve, executive orders. And that is true. Presidents can write executive orders, and they're as good as long as that person's president. And then as soon as they leave office, the next guy or someday gal, maybe gal in a couple days, comes in, writes up their own executive orders. So what really matters typically, right, to you, to me, is what's going on right now in our neighborhood. So this is a place, right, to think about, okay, what can you do to help the people that matter to you, right? In your community, in your family, right? Say that bad, horrible thing happens, whichever presidential candidate gets there, right? Okay, as that bad, horrible thing happens, what can you do? What will you do in your neighborhood, in your family, right? They'll help them, right? Because the government does a lot of things, but it doesn't do everything. And there's plenty of things that we can do, which regular citizens are doing to help their neighbors, to help the communities that matter to them, right? Everything from food shelves, volunteering at schools, there's a ton to list. And I think if you think about it, you'll realize that yes, maybe the other side has won. They're going to do things that you don't like for a particular community, but that community is not helpless, right? That community has its own efficacy, right? That community can do things, and you, right, as a part of that community or somebody who wants to support it, right? Hopefully with talking to them, so you're not bringing in your ideas but actually listen to them, right? You can do things to help, so you're not helpless no matter who's president. So this is a spot to write about how can you help the people around you locally, right? Now that question has probably multiple answers, and whether your candidate wins or loses, I want you to think about, right, which one of these actions can you start on today? Again, this is going to separate you from being stuck into who wins who loses, and you know the news cycle is going to want to keep your eyeballs on there as long as they can because they need to sell their medications and other things. And by keeping you there, that's how they make their money. Right? So after you pick one of those ideas that you think of, yeah, I would like to do that, or I'm going to continue doing that, right? What would it look like, right? Here's that, sounds cheesy, but it is visualization, writing down what would it look like. Then, if you did this, what are the benefits, right, of doing this? Not just for them, but for you, right? Because typically when we help other people, we get something out of it. Right? The last question in these three comes straight out of neuroscience. One of the things when I took this course for coaches about neuroscience is setting small, achievable goals is the way to go because you get a dopamine hit. That's the feel good feeling. So you do something that's small and you're successful. Nice, because you feel good and you start creating those circuits in your brain where you're going, oh, it feels good to do that. And so you can keep doing these small things to move you forward, feeling good along the way because you're getting those dopamine hits, which is a neurotransmitter that basically it's the good stuff, right? So why we do drugs, because we get that hit, but we can do it just by being successful in things that are important to us. Starting small, you get to have that successful hit, and then it will be more easier to keep going. This is why setting a big, massive goal oftentimes fails because you don't get a big, massive goal right away. You need to have those successful steps along it. All right, so that's this section. Right? Now, the other thing, as I'm sure you've noticed, is how insanely hot the temperature is. And I'm sure if you're one of those people who are also extremely hot, you've got justification. You feel like they're communists, they're Nazis, America's going to end. Hasn't happened yet, doesn't mean it won't, but I do personally wonder if I can know 50 million people, right, roughly who are going to vote for Harris, the 50 million people roughly who are going to vote for Trump. Personally, I don't feel I can judge all of them, though that is fun to do, right? So if you're with me in thinking that each group has its good people, each group has its idiots, each group has its people who really believe what they're saying, each group has people who are just using that for their own political power, right? Meaning each group is full of human beings. What can you do to take down the temperature a notch? So that first question here is really about how do you remind yourself that that person on the other side, who may be your neighbor or in the town over, is human too, right? They have stuff going on. They're making decisions. Some of them are great. Some of those are terrible. You're doing the same thing. We're all making our decisions based off our experiences and our values, and we all do not have the same values, right? And sometimes it can be hard because why don't you have my values? Well, because they're not you. So, how do you remind yourself that the other side is human? And this is not a hug them, love them, everything's going to be fine. This is just acknowledging that the people on the other side aren't the enemy. They're human beings also sharing this space in America with you, and they've got reasons for what they think. If you paint them as villains, then you're going to act towards them basically like a villain yourself, and they'll be doing the same thing, right? Because if you're fighting an evil enemy, what isn't justified? And that's a scary thought. Question for those of you who are like, Steve, damn it, you just don't get it. They're evil, all of them. I've looked into their eyes and seen their soul. Sorry, that quote from George Bush about Putin always cracks me up, right? But you've seen inside the souls of all 50 million people, and maybe there's this little spot to think about that. What's going on there? Now, here's the part, I like all of this because I made it, but the part I love the best is every day is a chance to do something good, right? Or at least not go deeper into a spiral of whatever happens this election cycle. So I have Monday through Saturday, 3 small things that you could do. And look, I'm not asking you, or you know, I'm asking you to fill this out potentially, but the idea of taking 3 small things you can do to help somebody, yourself included, or a family member, or in the community, 3 small, is you pick one. It's not to do all 3, good grief, you're busy. But you could make a list every day, right? Monday through Sunday, 3 small little things you can do that would help you, your family, your friends, somebody in the community. And if you do that, you're going to feel better. Doesn't mean everything's going to be rosy. You're not going to be upset, happy about what's going on, but at least you can control that little bit of your environment and you're doing something good for yourself or somebody else. So to me, that's a win. And then the final thoughts are, what do you want to do? What do you want it to look like as you survive this week? And, as you get through this week, because you can't control all that external stuff, but you can control how you respond to it. So follow the link in the message to this if this PDF sounds fun, or just copy what I said and write it out in a notebook. But there is a link with the PDF. Get it for free, print it out, and take charge. There's enough of this election stuff going on that's crazy that this can bring a little sanity, hopefully, to your life. Thank you.